My name is Jasmine Henry, and I'm running for State Representative District 8. So, the culture of my district is one, I would say there's parts progressive, there's part that's just street, but basically, it's working folks trying to make it. That's my district. So, I think that we've got a unique district in a sense, but also in a sense is very traditional to what you would see in Detroit. Businesses, we do have more kind of mainstream type businesses. We do have the new Meyer. Well, it's not new anymore, but Meyer on Grand River. That's in our area. There's a lot of same kind of thing, your barbershop, your beauty shops, that kind of thing. Organizations, we've got Grandmont and Rosedale Community Development. So I would say there's a pretty good mix, I think more so than a lot of areas, because of the uniqueness of different neighborhoods, but, we got a fair mix. Honestly, it's been my friends and family. I would have to say, though, and my church family, my faith is very important to me, so they've gotten behind me. But just people I know, I've been tossing the idea around of running for a while. Just kind of put it on the back burner, didn't think it was something I could do. And then, when I decided to do it, my family was like, yeah, that's the next step. My friends were like, we need to hear your voice. And so, yeah, so far, and my kids, they're like, go for it, Mom. So, kind of my big platform issues are education, access to health care, and this auto insurance. So, there's a lot of talk and a lot of discussion around auto insurance, but there's not a lot of action. Some of that I credit to having a Republican governor and legislature, but we got to stop the divisiveness. So, that is the forefront for me, is pushing legislation to eliminate redlining, to eliminate, non-driving factors when it comes to auto insurance, and really making this affordable. Well, we have to look at it, our personal injury protection or our PIP coverage being unlimited. That's the one slice of universal health care that we have. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going so far to advocate universal health care, but that is the one sliver that we do have that everybody has access to. So let's not take that away, but let's find a way to work through that. With regard to education, legislation that, I don't want to say levels the playing field, because I think there are some inherent differences that, the playing field just isn't going to be level between city and suburban, things like that. But specifically looking at making sure that our young people within the city are career and job ready. And whether that's technical education, so I do want to look at legislation increasing the access and the number of programs for vocational and technical education. I understand everybody is not that college type. Everyone's not ready to go to college, or that's not their desire. That's okay. We've been pushing this college for so long, forgetting that we need welders, we need plumbers, we need tool and die makers, all of that. This boom that's happening in Detroit, our kids are getting left behind because they don't have the skills to do the jobs. They don't have the apprenticeships, the journeymen, the trades. So we're building, and we have these requirements on businesses to hire X number of people within the city. But if the city is not, it doesn't have a workforce that meets the need, where does that put us? So, that's that. And as far as legislation around healthcare access, I think a big component to that is cultural competency. So when I say that, I mean making sure that the individuals that are working with the community understand who we are, understand how to communicate with us, understand different demographics. And right now, there is no legislation. There isn't anything requiring healthcare workers, providers, doctors, nurses, home healthcare aides, any of that, to have any cultural competency training. that's a problem to me, and I don't think it's just within the city, but for folks of color, that's huge, you know. So we can't act like it's not there. So that's another piece of legislation I'd like to implement. Yeah, so that's a great question because what I think is missing in the conversation when we talk about legislation is who do you include in the process? And oftentimes we have people that hold positions of power making decisions for everybody else without engaging the community, without asking the folks who this affects, what do you need? So, as part of that, I pride myself on being a person of people, of the people. So not only reaching out to the community and asking, what are your needs? What do you need to see? What are you feeling? Taking that back and working with other lawmakers and encouraging them to do the same so that we truly are working and representing the people who sent us to Lansing. Bottom line, be there. Be accessible. I'm not above going to knock on your door, picking up the phone to call you, emailing you, and saying, look, I need your help. Just like you need the community's help, I need your help. Let's talk through this. Let me understand where you're coming from. Let me understand what your needs are. But it's a matter of building relationships, and that doesn't happen overnight. I get that. Being a political newcomer, it's kind of like, how do you get your foot in the door? If I'm elected, bottom line is I'm serving these people. I need to work with you. I'm going to hound you. In my day job, I kind of deal in sales. So I have to get out there and I have to talk to folks about topics that are difficult, about healthcare, about how are you going to spend your healthcare dollars, So really, and looking at my existing base of friends, coworkers, acquaintances, business folk, to really see where I can leverage these relationships or how can I make the introductions and really help get folks on my side. So if I'm not elected, bottom line is I'm going to become more involved and support the person who is my representative because they're still my neighbor, right? Because they would be sitting in that position. They would be the representative for District 8. So I'm not going to back away from this and say, oh, I didn't get elected, I'm not messing with you no more. No, absolutely not. So in whatever ways I can help that individual, whether, that's knocking on doors, whether I can be included in meetings, whether it is putting together community forums, then that's what I'm going to do because ultimately they're working for us. Education and healthcare, those are the two main ones. And education, I say, because it is so important. The city and our young people have been through so much, and our educators, our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our administrators, they have been through the gamut over the last 10 to 15 years. So many different changes, cuts in funding, emergency manager, a new administration. And I think they're weary, and we've got to find a way to work together. But we also have to understand the challenges that we're facing in the city. Many of those challenges are being faced by rural districts as well. And they're being faced by other urban districts across the state. So when we start to look at, you ask, who am I going to engage to work with me on legislation, things like that, let's break the partisan line and let's work together. You know what I'm saying? So rural districts are seeing lack of funding. They're seeing students leaving the area. We talk about the brain drain. That doesn't just exist here in Detroit. That exists statewide. So let's look to some of these commonalities that we have and focus on that instead of our differences. If we begin to do that, I do believe that we can begin to move the needle and really accomplish some positive things. When we talk about healthcare, my day job working in healthcare, working at Blue Cross on the side of the insurance company, Sometimes raises, I hate to tell people I work at Blue Cross, but they didn't pay this or they didn't pay that. Or the flip side of it is, you guys are fantastic. So it's given me a different insight, I think, into the healthcare system. There's a lot that needs to be done, and I tend to look at it through the lens of social justice. So even though my job, I'm doing it one way, my compassion and who I am really comes out, and that's the approach that I take to my job. I have a lot of empathy, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes that doesn't mesh well with the business world, but I can only be who I am. So I think those are areas that we can make some progress. So again, that boils down to being accessible, making a conscious effort to learn about different areas. Born in Detroit, raised on the west side of the state in Kalamazoo, went to school in Lansing. So I've seen different parts of the state. I feel comfortable in different parts of the state. And there are different areas that have different concerns, but the bottom line is we're all still Michiganders, right? And when the Flint water crisis occurred, when those folks were poisoned, I immediately, instead of stepping and saying, oh my gosh, woe is them and that's so bad, let me donate $10. No, I'm donating my time. I took my kids. We're still going up there knocking door to door. Do you have water? Do you need water? Do you have a filter? We did this, and we're still doing this 2 years later, 3 years later. So when you get down on the ground and you begin to meet people, when you begin to talk with people, that breaks down the barriers. And so it allows you to have genuine interactions with folks. And I think that's where our legislators, some of them, they get lost. They've become politicized, and they become politicians as opposed to elected officials. And we have to remember who you're working for and what really matters. So, bottom line, I really feel as though my greatest strength is my approachability. I'm always going to be Jasmine. I want you folks to say, you know what? That's my representative. I'm going to call her up. Or, hey, she's not my district, but I can't get a hold of let me reach out to her. So let's make government work for us. That's it. Well, they can visit my website, which is vote 4 Jasmine Henry. You can check me out on Facebook. It is Jazz 4 State Rep. You can email me, vote 4 Jasmine Henry @gmail.com. But any way you want to do it, Jazz is here. So I look forward to talking with folks and meeting you this summer.
Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.